Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I am intrigued.
Why?
Because you intrigued me with your recent workshop on the Phygital and the entire concept. And since then, I tried to wrap my head around, and today I'm just intrigued to pick the expert's brain. And before we're getting there, and before you can reply to the expert claim, when did you start calling yourself a facilitator?
I didn't call myself that, but I was called by clients, perhaps for 30 years ago when I worked with, I moved from expressions. I worked with exhibitions and Swedish television, radio, theater, but then I started to work with impression, how to get things to last after a session and activity. And it was connected to that, that some of my clients start to call me a facilitator. And a person that makes things possible, smoother and so on. I have no problem to call myself a facilitator.
And what have you learned from your time at the radio and TV about group work, about the work you're doing today?
Well, I started from cognition and how people think together. You don't remember the main message from a PowerPoint presentation you see sometimes, but you know every line in a TV series, a TV show with a story. And the people designing this story and the setting and the clothes and the director and so on, they are a team working together to design circumstances and processes that help people to think together, both in their own work, but you can see that people gather around TV series and movies and so on worldwide. And they follow the characters and so on. So it's a lot of facilitation and to support the cognition processes when people think together, I think.
And I only assume that the biggest difference is clearly that TV and radio is a one-way communication. So you don't get the feedback from the group.
You get it much slower.
True, you have a gap in there.
Yeah, and I see that a lot of companies and organizations during the pandemics use the old TV concept with a panel talking, but they try to get some interaction, and that was via writing something in a chat, and then the host actually shows what to get further from the audience and so on. But I have been very critical to that old TV concept actually during the whole pandemics. I think broadcasting first isn't what we need. We need interaction first, and then we can have some part of broadcast. So, but you get feedback from people when you do TV series and radio and so on. Actually, in radio, I was the program boss, but also the producer for a lot of programs at the local radio in Stockholm and outside Stockholm, Södertälje, where I lived. And we had a lot of interaction, a lot of programs where people called in and have ideas, but also send reporters, flying reporters, as we call them, out in the society. And my creativity was hard for my colleagues, perhaps, but I wanted my reporter that are going to a basketball match to be on the bench among the players, not sitting in a special studio at the arena. So already then I wanted to be so close to the reality where things happens, and I want to move the workshops and the events into where things happens. And that's what this digital layer helps us with also. So I take a lot of things from my experience from radio and TV and exhibitions and so on.
And what just went through my mind is that even the inviting the audience to contribute. So what are the questions you ask to get someone who listens to the radio to fully engage, to grab the phone and to engage with the person in the studio? I think that's even one more layer as compared to a workshop where someone has already bought in and is part of a group sitting together to contribute.
Well, the mistake is to say, what do you think about this? Because then we have on the Swedish nation radio a call P1. This is the name of the station, and you get all lunatics that don't know anything about the subjects. So it has been a humor in itself. But if you say, well, why is it better with black than white? And you invite people knowing something about colors or the context to call, then you get a lot of interesting views and people engage. And what's happened when social media come is that most radio stations and TV stations that go live also have a feed from Facebook and Instagram and so on. So you move between different formats, and you see short clips from the radio studio at Instagram and so on. So you start to have a multi-format, multi-channel environment. But well, it's 25 years ago, I was a program manager on the radio station. I tried to create that then already, even though I didn't have so much technology helping me.
Wonderful. Thank you for this little kind of deviation. It's fascinating. I didn't know that about you. And you have a company called Rangemaker.
Yeah.
And I was always jokingly, when I refer or when I think of you, Thomas, also, we met throughout Never Done Before, and in the conversations that we have and the contributions you make, for me, you're the person who comes up with new names and new concepts to.
Yeah, I do. I'm very visual in my facilitation style. I actually have Star Trek holodeck, the old science fiction series, as my role model when I design my workshop halls and events. But I use my language very much to try to picture new worlds and new realities. And it's most fun for me, at least, to take an old word or a combination of old word or namings, and then people see a new world and words, of course. And range maker comes from a deviation or a version of change maker from the beginning. I work with a lot with change, but actually change isn't the value itself. Everyone want to change, but no one want to be changed. And in most companies and organizations, you have a continuous change instead of continuous improvements. But what we need, but what I think we need is more of a range. We need the capacity to think beyond what we already have. We need a capacity to get further with what we already have, and we need a capacity to last longer, the sustainability. And actually, me and my partner, Madeleine, we formed Rangemaker before I got the book from David Epstein named Range. And what he grasped in that book is the real breakthroughs, if you see the Nobel Prize and so on, the people that make them have range. They have done a lot of things when they were small. They have tested a lot of things from pure curiosity. They can often be very late bloomers. So they don't do a career as 20 years old and then they are CAO at 30 years old. So they, in this book, he have, for instance, Van Gogh as an example, that he was so bad on painting. He was so bad on a lot of things, but he had an interest and could sit on a shore and look on the waves and see a little patterns in the water. And it was actually the 2 last years he find his way of painting. And nowadays they are the most valuable paintings we have.
And he never benefited from this.
No, he didn't. And he had a lousy life in a lot of ways. But in the book, you have other example of people that actually get the benefits from it. Mm. I don't know the Japanese name of the guy that invented Donkey Kong, this handheld. But what he went by tube or train in Tokyo area, I think, and he saw that grown-up men sitting with their cell phones and hiding them and doing something. And then we realized they are playing games, but they don't want to show the rest of the society that they are playing because that's childish. And then he took a lot of old technologies and put them together in a touch screen and did a lot of things. And actually it was a huge success. He's also the founder or the designer and innovator about Wii, this, when you stand in front of your screen and it reads your movements. Yeah. And he also took very old technology but put it together in new ways. And I realized that I am a range person. I always used old things in new ways. So my household god is MacGyver. So I have a stand, a sacred place at home with a photo of MacGyver, where I sometimes go and beg for power and ideas.
Wonderful.
So the name Rangemaker comes from that.
Fascinating. And I wonder, how would you facilitate then a range process as opposed to a change process? So what is the difference in terms of mindset or skill set that you bring in, but also that you help the group to grow?
As I said to my partner, Madeleine, who is more about the inner development, and I'm about adapting to the surrounding environment, the changes in the technology and so on. And she says, you have an ability to fool people up in the forest without they knowing that they actually are in a new environment. They just whoa, and then they stand on a mountain, metaphorically, and see a lot of things they haven't thought about before. And the way I do that is, instead of just asking them, what do you think about this problem, or what's the problem in our process, I bring all from science reports to creative angles via physical tools, thinking tools. I call them tangible thinking tools because you can grasp them and they are comprehensive. Mm-hmm. So I can take a research paper and transform it into 6 coffee cups with clips and labels on them. So they actually drink coffee in 6 perspectives that are new for them. And then they get much more range in their thinking, their logical swear, if I say so. Because one role model for me, at least his work, is Edward de Bono. And he has this thinking tools like 6 thinking hats and so on. I have designed 6 thinking funnels instead. I have funnels, in the kitchen where you put, and you put them on the table, or you can, instead of having them on your head. Yeah, but Edward de Bono, he have this idea that the perception control our ability to think very much, and we are always logical, but within our logical perception sphere. So if you can widen your perception, then you can enhance your ability to see and think things that you couldn't before. So yeah.
And what I hear is you also attach something tangible, as you say. So this also helps us to remember to attach some sort of emotion with it, to because there's more than just one sense.
Very much so.
To it.
Yeah.
Which seems to bring us already right to the topic of today, to the Phygital.
Yeah.
Which
this
is
new word, but I didn't invent it. It was an Australian company in 2013, I think, that tried to find a naming for not the two physical and digital side by side, which is hybrid from me. Phygital is when they merge. So you can switch from a physical to a digital and back, and just seamlessly.
So if I understand it correctly, the hybrid is that some aspects are physical, other aspects are digital. And the way how we use the word hybrid, especially since the pandemic, is some participants are together in the physical world and some participants are remotely in the digital world. And that's then called hybrid. Whereas Phygital is me, myself, I am in the physical world by the things that I can touch, that are around me, I can interact. And at the same time, me, myself, and I are in the digital world through the screen interacting with you.
Yeah, exactly. And one part of it we call augmented reality. You can walk, you have this Pokemon Go trend. So you walk in your physical environment and you look through the screen of the smartphone, and then you see a layer upon it. But in the Phygital, you can do the different way. You can be in a virtual world, and then you put a physical layer, so you actually can look into a physical place, which we do when we have this recording, because I see you in your physical world and you see me, and we are both in physical world. But the Phygital is that when I start to design thinking tools or help people to think together and connect over geographical distance, we mix the information format in both digital and physical. And the thing is to do this with as simple means as possible, as MacGyver had solved it, not as virtual reality glasses. It's a longer way. It's not the shortest way to get the effect.
Yeah. Can you give an example?
Yeah, if I say we can make an ordinary printer, a 3D printer. If I send you a mail with a template that you print, and the template says cut and fold this into a 3D dimensional figure. We call it origami. I think it's a Japanese word. You can correct me on that, you the people that know Japanese. But then you have printed and folded a physical figure, perhaps 6 figures, and you in front of your camera are sorting them on the table with your hands. You are tactile, you are move yourself, and I do the same here. And then you say, well, can I borrow your arms? Because perhaps I have different factors or parameters on my figures than you have. So then I switch my camera put it on, if I have a smartphone, I can have it on my chest and the camera outside, and you see a first person view where I am in my physical area. So we are two minds sharing the same physical experience, but I am the arms. You have seen surgeons operating through a robot on distance, but it could be a person here doing things. So just by having physical aids on both sides and then use this digital interface to move into each other's physical worlds is a part of the Phygital, MacGyver style. You can do it much more advanced, of course.
And a few things run through my head while I was listening to you. One is, it reminds me of something that Sean Blair was talking about when I interviewed him on Lego Serious Play, in the online version of that. That he said that as a Lego Serious Play facilitator, sometimes he's doing the magic hands. So he's building what the groups are explaining.
Yeah, that's Phygital from my point of view.
Yeah. And in this context, I can totally understand it, that it's just a matter of efficiency. So someone who's very good with Lego, so he has the skills that the group might not have, so it saves time. The other thing that came to my mind as an example was constellations, object constellations, that maybe if you have someone else on your behalf moving the objects, you get some emotional distance almost to the topic, and you can see it from a distance.
Yeah, that's a good one. But also that you co-brain, I call it co-braining, because you get in tandem, two minds are together, is standing side by side, and both are moving objects with your hands or writing post-its or something. Then you have your own universe inside, and then you try to meet in the physical. But when you use another person's arms, you actually connect in a very deep way that I haven't noticed before. So you both have the distance, the emotional distance, but you also have a Pacific Rim, a movie where they are standing two persons in large, huge robots fighting dinosaurs or something from another dimension. And you need to be two persons because otherwise your brain capacity doesn't work. So the one in the head and the robot standing on the left are left hemisphere or right hemisphere, it should be, but I think they had the left hemisphere and so on. And they are connected as two minds, as two, and they in this movie they have to be siblings or something to have the DNA, tech stuff. But what I have seen when working with this co-braining or tandem couples is that you actually get a synergy in the thinking that you don't get when we just talk to each other and move objects.
And I wonder about different layers, maybe. One is, do you need to do some kind of syncing work beforehand to really get them there? Because I think it's not just like a button you can click and say, okay, now the two of you are synced and you're going to do this. I can imagine that it's almost meditative, but it's a tandem meditation almost.
Yeah, different couples need different time to sync, of course.
How do you help them?
Easy task. Move this physical object on a scale from 1 to 5. How good is X? And then they well, it's a 3. Yeah, it's a 3, and they start to think together, and then I increased the complexity in what we are doing, and I don't always succeed, of course, but I'm looking for opposite pals. Opposite pole, a new word also, opposite pals. So if you have an impulsive person as hands, and you have a thoughtful person as the back mind in this tandem, you get twice efficiency, because the impulsive try things with the hands, and the thoughtful just waiting and waiting, and then when the dust has got down, then it says, let's move that thing to there, and the impulsive said, well, good idea. So instead of all the time interact, you can use your different preferences and different characteristics in the way you interact with your world and others. Yes. And that, what we're talking now is just a little part of this working Phygital.
Yeah.
You get a lot of new possibilities that you don't get from only digital or only physical.
Just to close on this one, and then I don't want to hijack the Phygital as this tandem exercise. Because one thought was, as you explained, I can perfectly imagine that that you would put two in tandem where one speaks to think and the other one thinks to speak.
Exactly.
And one speeds the other up and slows the other down. And is there a maximum? Can you do it with more than two people? Would be one question. And
I haven't managed to do it where one person can have two minds behind them. But actually, we move all the time. So sometimes we are physical in one person are the hands and legs and so on. And the other one or two are virtually present. But then we move. You know, we are all in a physical setting somewhere. And we use it when you come to a factory, for instance, and you have a line, you have some production problem, and then you have operator there at the line. He is the arms and so on. And then you have, and perhaps it's Berlin, Tesla's new factory. I haven't built it yet, and then you have experts or colleagues from Singapore and from Buenos Aires beaming in, and those three are looking at the physical line at the factory to find what's the problem and find new ways to solve the problem. And that's my best when you move the workshop to the reality. Actually, it is at the factory line where you have the problem. You don't sit in a conference facility and moving posters talking about how to improve your line. So, and that's an even better example, I think, of this Phygital possibilities.
Then it's almost, then it brings also the hybrid aspect, or what we call hybrid, into the equation, right? Because there you have the physical, the tangible physical. And people or participants to join remotely.
Yeah, exactly. And what's sometimes it's not clear what is remote from what. We say we work on a distance from what? Well, from our headquarters. Well, isn't the center your customers, where you add value for your customer or your citizen when they are doing something? They're walking in the park. And it's when they can walk in the park in a safe way, like the gardening and so on, then the value is created. Not two people sitting on chairs and talking about how to design the park. So the closer you can get the both value creation, the thinking and the problem solving and the learning to help the customer. So the concept of remote or distance is a problem itself, I see, from my point of view. And
why is it a problem? Because it doesn't define from what it is remote?
I think it's cement. I don't know if that works in English. It's conserve old thinking patterns of time and space. It's this industrial 19th century batch thinking of how to produce things that we see in the school system all over the world, that one same age in one room with one teacher, one subject and so on, and then you batch them through the system. And when we say you work on a distance, often we mean from what was the temple or the center or something. But as I see it, we get more and more distributed in time, in space, and in habits. Also in habits, because if you have small child, you have one world, one ordinary life. If you are a senior, you have another. So we have different circumstances, but we are supposed to work together, and our combined competence and ideas and so on, connections, are supposed to be a synergy, not less than the parts together. So most of the thinking about how to solve the problem with hybrid, remote, and so on are built on old thinking patterns, I think. And that I want to show the possibility of a better way to work that take less resources, are more human friendly, that you use the variety between both professions and personalities and so on.
And now I'm running into a puzzle. So I do get that, especially with products being more and more digital and no longer physical. So there is no clear center of attention from which we could be remote or not. And in a world where everything then is digital, what is the value and the benefit of inducing the phygital or the physical into that?
Because we're still also physical. So everything isn't digital, even though metaverse is a try. They try, I say they because I haven't worked with that word. I try to describe the second generation of internet, the seamless 3D interactable spaces.
Where you emerge.
Yeah, exactly.
Into the world.
Yeah, exactly. But my neighbor, my closest neighbor, other side of the corridor where we live, well, never mind how we live, but she is 93 years old, and she has people coming home to her every day, morning, midday, and so on, helping her. And they have 80 minutes to do all the things, and then they move further. And sometimes they bring new people to do this service. And then in the phygital world, they have tandem with the experienced one that's sitting on their shoulder and helping them, introducing them for this Brit, her name is, and make things more smoothly, because we have a lot of professions that are social in a physical contact. We still have doctors, a lot of teachers, but also in those taking care businesses.
Yes.
And I think in a phygital way to work, of course, I am in a distance from Brit if I sit in Malmö, southern part of Sweden, and facilitating a newcomer to help Brit walking into her apartment. But I think the center moves all the time. The physical center moves all the time.
And this would also take the best advantage of different talents.
Very much so.
There are individuals who are just better with physical proximity and the social part, and others know how to do things, so they can be remote from the center of attention, who is the client in this case.
Exactly. And this is a new thing, isn't a new thing. In Barcelona, I know for many years, at least 15 years, they have put together 50 talented doctors looking at cancer when you have X-ray, and so they are very good to look on the plates. to see cancer. And some of the people there are very good at soft tissue, and others on the skeleton and so on. So they have a brain hive in Barcelona, and they could already for 10 years ago remote control microscopes and in a whole of the world. And also now I know next step is to do surgery with robots and so on. So it isn't a new thing, but we don't use it in retail and education and
facilitation.
No, exactly. So therefore I try to find words, and actually it comes also from Star Trek, this beam in or beam me up, Scotty, or but the easiest MacGyver way to beam someone in is if I am a Swedish in Stockholm's archipelago on an island, and I have a management team working on a subject. We are sitting at the campfire, and then I beam in an expert from Berlin on an iPad, and the expert has his or hers face close to their camera where they are, so we see the face in natural size almost. And then I put it on a stand at the campfire and perhaps enhance the sound a little bit. Then we have beamed in a person, an expert, that just come for 30 minutes and help us to see things that we didn't, get more range, get even more range. Instead of taking this person, in the worst case, by flight and all this emission, to move them to Stockholm and then a boat out to the island and so on. So this beaming is a very good way to enhance every group, I think.
Which is then already back to the hybrid, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder, what is it that the concept of Phygital didn't become a buzzword as hybrid did? So what are, maybe the audience, what are they overestimating hybrid or underestimating Phygital?
Well, I think the easiest reason is pronunciation. Hybrid is easier to say, and spell, because you don't know Phygital. How do you spell that? And then it is the next dimension that most haven't thought about yet. So hybrid is easy. I had a hybrid car for 15 years ago, a Prius. So hybrid means just mix up.
And
so
usually it's the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, very often it is like that, exactly. But I think Julie Sweet, that are the CEO of Accenture, 629,000 employees, I think, worldwide, and they have employed 54,000 persons just the last quarter. And she said that we are starting to using the word Phygital. And we want to emphasize or put forward the idea that places and spaces isn't important. It's the interaction between individuals or teams. And they bought 60,000 Oculus Quest VR kits. And they also designed welcome to the company boxes that they physically send out, because otherwise when you change from another firm, you just get a new computer, but it looks the same. But when you don't have an office, they send things that you can put up, so it looked like a physical office, even though it was at their home office or at the close co-working space. So when Accenture start to do things, it tend to spread. Yeah. But I think that the reason why Phygital haven't spread and the hybrid is spread is that it's a word you always can say, even though you don't understand the thing about what you're talking about. Well, it's hybrid. And so many experts have suddenly emerged that have webinars and seminars and education how to lead in a hybrid environment. And I don't think they know what they talk about, actually. Well, they know what they talk about, but they are still in the old way of thinking, I think.
And yeah, and I think what is fascinating, and maybe the Phygital is just the next step. Once we know that we can create the best of both worlds in the hybrid via the Phygital, so still bringing the physical and the physical experience to the individual. Because one idea that came up in the workshop that you hosted, and I found that fascinating, was how to actually bridge, how to beam someone over, or how to transform reality into something that is more approachable. So we're thinking of a huge event, and I just came back from the expo, and it's very difficult if there's something happening on one end of the area, and 5 minutes later I want to be at the other end. It's impossible because I cannot beam myself over.
No.
But then there maybe is an experience where I want to be physically there because it involves touch and smell, and others where I can actually join digitally through the screen. And if I understood you correctly, this would be an example then of a Phygital implementation of an event where I can basically experience some parts and then beam myself over to digitally experience others.
Yeah, I have a role for helping you also move when you beam in. I call it humatar, a human avatar.
Humatar.
Yeah. So I think most expos and fairs and so should have a squad of humatars for the people not even entering the city where the fair are, and they could have 1 or 2 or more people behind them walking by the stands, and then they put some cameras on this keynote, and then they edit the best of highlights from the day, and then they have a studio talk as you have in sport when they sit and analyze the matches and then the skiing and so on. But you actually got a new dimension I haven't thought about. You could have humatars even though you are on the same expo, but you want to be on they could be 1 kilometers away.
Exactly.
And then that's what I call phygital twins instead of digital twins, because you could put a layer upon the expo where you have a virtual world. You could use what we use, Velo, for instance, in a simple way, that actually look like the expo.
Yeah.
And then you could, if you go in on your laptop or Velo, I think they come with a smartphone interface, then you actually just click on where you want to be, and there you have on the wall a resource streaming from that, but also a chat or something that you can ask questions.
Yeah. So I can interact with the people who are there in real time, but I could also walk there.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a digital twin and a humatar?
A digital twin is a description using in the industry where you do a CAD drawing and then connect the CAD drawing to the physical space. It could be a production line. And when you change the CAD drawing, you change the robot movement, perhaps, when you assemble things. And so digital twin is often referred to, I put on LinkedIn, I saw they have a car, autonomous car, taking photos, millions of photos on San Francisco, going up, down, and then from the 2D photos, an AI transferred into a 3D world, and then you have a digital twin of San Francisco,
of the
where
city,
you can
and
move.
then you
Can move in it. But the phygital twin is both ways. You can have a virtual world, and then you have not perhaps a replica, but you have things that reminds you of the virtual world in the physical world. And that's what I talked about, this origami. I take a virtual thing, a Word or a PowerPoint document. I have done some shapes on it, and then you print it on your side. You are in another city, in another country, and actually I just send, and then you do a physical copy of the digital thing. And then you take a photo of your physical and load up on a Padlet or a Miro board, and then we do things there, and then we do a new drawing that you print, or perhaps you project a picture of what we have refined in the virtual space on your wall where you are, or on the floor where you're standing if you have your projector on the front. So you, in a phygital twin, you move between the formats all the time. Sometimes you just do it to show off, but very often you have use of it.
I was just about to ask the question, what is then too much? Because you can get lost in translation.
Yeah.
Or lost between the worlds. And especially when you're in charge of a group, you want to make the process easier.
Yeah, but when I train the group and train my co-facilitators, or perhaps I'm a co-explorer, I don't have all answers and then train people, but then we need to get some range of the possibilities, and then we back and just use the most, as little as possible. So I love this simple solutions, not this overcomplicated. But when I talk now, I just want to help you, but also the people that listen, to see the possibilities.
The entire range. And another use case just popped up in my mind is the prototyping phase. So I can imagine a group producing together the idea of a prototype, and then, as you explained it, okay, send it to the printer, print it out, and produce it in your own home, and then interact with it in the physical space with the prototype, to then provide feedback on how it feels in the different spaces.
Yeah, and I have learned in design thinking that have this user-centered process, that in the prototype phase, actually you can have 3 phases. You have the pretend prototype, the priotype, where you have different functions, and then comes the prototype. And this pretend prototype is the volume of a product or a service, or it could be a digital interface, even though you make a physical print of it. And you have the little icons on the screen, but they are like separate objects where you can move. And then you take a photo and send back to the UX designer. You're so right. The more abstract and the more not ready yet you talk about or work with, the more use you have of this way of working, I think.
Yes, and I think from what I hear is it's very important to have a group that is sufficiently comfortable with technology and switching between these different worlds and tools.
Yes and no. We have started what we call learn-alongs, referring to cook-alongs. In cook-alongs, we have a chef, standing in a kitchen, and you have the same groceries and so on, and then you cook along together with the.
We had a workshop like that I'd never done before.
Yeah, so cook along has been especially during the pandemics, a big thing. But we have a lot of alongs, test along, think along, but also learn along, and we have realized that the problem for most people is that they don't handle the laptop when it comes to different to the browser and move between the short command, moving from that app to that app. And that we can train very easy in a learn along. So, and then we need, of course, intuitive interfaces we choose services that are more intuitive. So I think, for instance, Padlet, that where you have your cell phone or a smartphone, it's very easy to load up photos or have put, if you know how to take a photo or record a movie on your smartphone, it's very easy to share it on Padlet and so on. So and actually we have trained seniors 75 years and older the last summer, not this summer that was, but last summer, to use Zoom via the local church that saw that a lot of people sitting alone. And well, it takes some patience to train people that don't know what the link is.
Yes.
Even less what the browser is. But actually, I think we had 30 people getting together, taking coffee in front of the screen and learning how to do breakout rooms, how to put on and off your sound, your microphone and so on. And it was just, I think of those 30, it was just 5 that didn't come through. And
this reminds me, or maybe goes back full circle to where we started about the change process. Everyone wants to change, but nobody wants to be changed. We don't enjoy it if the change is put upon us. And we always, especially the older we get, we might be more afraid of change. But as soon as there's a sense of urgency, it is easier to make this change and to get the open minds. And I had the same with my parents. As soon as the lockdown hit and they're in Germany, I'm in the Netherlands, they learned all different kinds of digital tools that they were always afraid of before. And then suddenly we played Rummy Cup online.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
But some of the time you used before the pandemics to move yourself to the place of the meeting or workshop or event, you need to use it for learn along or boarding the technical to get everyone on board.
Yeah.
And the learning curve is very steep, I think, at least in the platforms we use. For instance, we use Meebo, Get Meebo very much. And it's this vintage 3D video service. Everyone understands how to press the key W to forward and using your mouth or pad to move your head. And if you put W and move your mouse to the left, you go to the left. So it's just 2 commands together. And it's much easier to learn how to move in Meebo than how to put on and off your camera in Zoom. It's much more intuitive.
Also because you're failing forward, basically, like in a video game.
Yeah, exactly.
You press something and you realize, oh, now I'm falling over and nothing happens. Whereas on Zoom, you have all these different icons. And I think it's interesting. That's actually a generational problem. I think even in my generation, I was born in '82. There were some technical gears that I could break eventually or potentially. So there is a fear that I break something or I delete something and then it's irreversible.
The whole internet.
And today, the new generation, they grew up in this world where you cannot break anything. Just press any button and nothing will be lost and nothing will be broken. But this is a mindset thing.
Yeah.
And I think with a tool like Meebo, which resembles a video game, you are cognitively in a different world so that you don't even think that you could break something.
No. It becomes a safe space. If you take Meebo, I can see a vicar from a church playing around with the engineer, just jumping. If you press the space bar, you jump. And you see doom, doom, doom. They would never do that in a physical space. But here is safe. Everyone looked kind of the same faces on these avatars, these small robots that actually are very nicely designed because they breathe, they move like this if you see them. So the team behind Meebo or getmeebo.com that you find, they are very talented when it comes to this intuitive interface. But also, if I go back to this Phygital tandem pair, my mother are not very used to a computer and so on. And my son, her what do you call it?
Her grandson, your son.
Grandson, yeah, exactly. Yeah. He get in tandem with her because he can't help her if he don't see what she do on her screen with her keyboard. So she put on WhatsApp her cell phone on the chest like this, so he see his hands and what she does, and then he helps her to use the app for bank issues or to get this COVID pass and so on. So actually he beam in and use her as a humatar to do her things. He take control, just saying, move your right hand there. No. This is a browser, that's a link. No, you see up. So he see what she does. Otherwise, we're trying to do this support without seeing what they see. Well, I don't have any hair left, and it isn't from that, but it feels like I grasp my hair trying to help my mother do this.
Yes, and I think it's also more a deeper learning process, because if we do something with our hands and we're doing it ourselves, we might remember better because we just create all these synapses, and it's not only being told what to do or done for us. If someone in the audience thinks, oh, this Phygital, I would like to give it a try, what would be your advice for the lowest hanging fruit to tap into the Phygital, just to recreate this experience?
That's a good one. I haven't thought about that, but I think do this tandem thing that we have talked so much about, to use Zoom Zoom. Zoom is a good service, I think, for video communication, because you can have both your laptop and a cell phone, and you can have two units into the same meeting if you just don't put on the sound stream on one of them. Otherwise, you get this sound echo effect. And actually train to beam into each other, to connect co-brain. Now I rearrange. I see your shelf behind you, and you have put all the books in the same color. now I want you to, and I are your brain and you are my arms, and then you start to sort them in another, and you show what books you have, and we talk about what is that about and so on. So I get a very close look into what you read or what you have there, and then you move and we go to the kitchen, and you help me to do one of your best dishes. You know, we open the refrigerator
and I see what you have, and then I can help you cook.
Exactly. So that is a Phygital experience. Two minds around one physical area, and vice versa. But then you can add on a layer if you know how to do screenshots. I have a Mac, so I have Command Shift 3, I think I do. And then we could walk in the local area as you are my humatar and I'm your humatar, but we start with that you are my humatar, and then I do screenshots of interesting thing I see in your local area, and then I take those photos, put them in a PowerPoint, and then add some markers that I want to know more about. Arrows, oh, that was interesting. And so I do my work for myself, and you do the same. And then we have documented what we have in our separate local areas outside our house, and have get help from the other to see new things, because you get home blind when you walk there. So that's also a phygital experience, low-hanging fruit. And what we use now is actually Zoom. If you then go the complexity, but also sophistication, one layer on a higher level, you have using Vela or Meebo, or we have a new service in Sweden called Teamico, where remote teams have an office and they have these spontaneous meetings. You can use that as a foundation and then move out to Miro-boards, Padlets, YouTube movies, Zoom meetings, and so on. And actually, I use QR codes very much to both connect the physical world with digital resources. It's just to put your camera, both Android and iPhone, on the QR code, and then you get a link, and then you go into service.
Yeah. Can you give an example? I am intrigued.
If I can on a distance facilitate a group in the forest, coming to different stations where I have prepared with props and so on. And when they come to one station, they see a QR code, and one in the team take their smartphone, and then they see a film that I have loaded up on YouTube, telling them how to do this exercise, how to put the props on place, and then work with it. And then they have another QR code where they take a photo of the result from the visual part of there and load it up on a Miro board. So they have documented it from the physical setting out in the wood on this fire camp. And then they come to a next station, and then they have a QR code, and then they go into Zoom meeting where I'm waiting. I say, hey, let me real-time facilitate you. So with QR codes, you can easily connect the physical environment with a lot of digital resources. Yeah. But actually, I did an experiment where I put 4 QR codes in a mail to 6 different persons that know me very well, but they didn't know each other. And then I wrote, this is a film. Take your mobile phone at the laptop screen, take a photo. You come to a movie where I tell you what it's all about. And then I say, hey, it's Thomas. You are one of 6 people I know very well, but you don't know each other. So on another QR code, you have a Zoom meeting opening tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And I don't know many of you, of the others that will be there, but if you have time, go there. So you meet 5 new people, and to help you to have a nice time together and get some conversation going, you have the 3rd QR code is a Miro board where I have some questions and so on, and the 4th QR code here is to a Padlet where you can take photos of a physical thing in your surrounding that means a lot to you. And actually, all 6 came to the Zoom meeting the day after.
And I'm not surprised, because it's you're making them sufficiently curious, so it's new. It's a little bit like a scavenger hunt, and you make it easy. Because with a link, often, well, the funny thing is, a link is nothing else than a QR code. No, but the fact that you have to use your phone to, and this is again the phygital, right? Yeah, so the QR code that is physical with a phone that is digital. You merge the worlds, and I think this does something to our curiosity. Yeah, it does. It does. Beautiful example. And as we were speaking, and we talked about the expo before, I had another example of the German pavilion. They used the phygital, so everyone got a little badge around their neck when they joined, and we registered our name and the language we're speaking. And while we were walking along the exhibition, at some point the machine would talk to us in our mother tongue. It would say, "Hey Miriam, Why don't you grab the phone to just listen to some content here? Or, hello, Miriam, I have some interesting information for you. And they would speak in German to me as I walk by. And if behind me was Boris from Russia, he would get the same information addressed to him.
So they scanned your QR code on your chest, or what did you have? Or did you have some RFID? Or
it must have been RFID.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
And for the listeners, is radio technology instead of vision.
Yes.
Yeah, radio frequency. I don't know if that's the shortening for it, but
they use it in logistics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
With all this digital and the merge of different worlds, according to you, what makes a workshop fail?
Most often that the people attending haven't bought the reason for the workshop. So they are, too many people are mostly there because they are supposed to be there, and they don't want to talk about what's on the agenda. They have internal conflicts, or they have checked out because they are looking for a new job, or whatever. So the most, for me at least, the most common reason for failure, because you fail a lot if you're supposed to be good facilitator, but the most failures that I don't learn so much from them, because I know that it doesn't work, is when they don't agree to the purpose with the workshop, I think. So they have a lot of hidden agendas, and I can fool them up in the forest with curiosity and so on. So I often get them the first hour, but the first part in a workshop, when they are supposed to take a stand, then it can fail. And I try to do a lot of things to align the purpose and so on beforehand. But when in the pandemics, I've done a lot of digital, well, actually Phygital, but they're mostly digital workshops. I try to have a pre-process to help people to go into it, but also we can see if they are not aligned to the purpose. But people have a tendency to book meetings
back to back. Yeah,
back to back, and actually they don't think about this workshop until they just check in and come to they click on the link. And often it's the people that need the most preparation that do the least.
So what are you doing to facilitate that, the preparation, or to assure that they come prepared?
Well, I try to help my assigner, my client, that to understand that this is very important. This is half the effect of the workshop, that people understand why and want to when they come.
Because I think, yeah, understanding the purpose and understanding the relevance and importance of being there is one thing. Having them to do some prep work is the other thing. Because before the pandemic, or when I was still in physical sessions, I would ask them to do a preparation task that is so short that they could do it while commuting to the workshop.
Yeah.
In an online session, well, the commute was reduced to seconds. So now basically I accepted the thought that I cannot expect any preparation from anyone, because they won't do it anyway. And if some are prepared and others not, then I'm in this weird situation where either disrespect the time that someone has put into it beforehand, or I leave some behind who didn't do the work.
I think I try to help people come in the right mind and emotion, and then try to do the quick prep in the beginning of a workshop, so to solve that problem as you talk about. My favorite exercises is actually connected to that. One is I have wooden figures, wooden dolls, as you use in sketches when you do them in different postures and train to do. And physically, I say, take your wooden doll and bend it in a position so we can see that it is you. And then they start, and if they are, well, it was all ready from the beginning, or do you mean right now, or when also in weekends? People are so different how much effort they put in this exercise. But then if they are extrovert, I don't look at the wooden doll when I introduce everyone at the workshop. I look at the person. So he or she get in the center because they want to be seen. But if they are shy or introvert, I talk through the doll. So I point on the doll and I lift the doll and I do the talking, and they just answer yes, no, or start to talk. And I do this in digital surroundings also. But then they have to do something. They do a drawing that they show in front of the camera of this. But it's much more fun with this wooden figure. But then they go into mindset that they are a part of this community, this workshop setting. Another favorite exercise is
just 1 second. So this means that in a physical workshop where everyone is in the same room, everyone would get this doll.
Yeah, each, yeah.
To show how they their posture reflected in a doll. Yeah. Very interesting.
And a lot of usage when you do groups and so having these dolls also. And you take the doll to if you work at the table, everyone have their dolls there. And if you see one doll holding up their hand, if that isn't the main posture, or they holding something red, it means come immediately. If they're holding something yellow, say come when you have time. But if they don't hold anything, or it's green, it says, well, it's going smooth in our group. So
the non-digital twin.
Yeah. But this other one is the morning people there, the evening people there, the one that are into details, holistic, thoughtful, impulsive. You stand there and there. Actually, that exercise is so good because you can have a lot of storytelling when it comes to different preferences. But you can also say, this is the principles, or I don't only handle the differences, the variety between us. I use it as a benefit that we are both morning people and evening people in this workshop. So everyone get the possibility to check in, to be there at the full body. In digital way, I say every morning people look close to the camera so I can see your nose here. No, and the evening people, you go back as far. So they leave the chair, so they get up and look in from the left and right. The people that take information with the eyes and ears point, or you that use touch and show your fingers and so on. So I get everyone very involved in a very secure way, a safe way.
And also in an embodied way.
Yeah, and then I can actually get them quite far in the process, even though they don't know the purpose or have bought into it all the way, because it's so fun. And they get they get the right feeling,
and they feel as being part of the group. Yeah,
exactly. And it's okay to be different. I say that's our asset. So the morning people, this is the morning. You are responsible to keep the energy in the room, and the evening people, you come after lunch.
I love that.
So and then you can joke about this, about thoughtful or impulsive. I say, well, this is probably the fastest thoughtful people I ever have to work with, because you were very quick to take a stand on thoughtful. And the impulsive people, they are both thoughtful sometimes, but not now, but I can, but not now. So you have a lot of things to joke about personality.
And by that, yes, you're inviting all the different personalities in, and you're giving them responsibilities and a role.
Mm.
So everyone plays an important part and helps the group to achieve together.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. To close, maybe, I would be very curious about your answer. The question, according to you, what's the future of facilitation?
I can tell you how the process to answer that question. I have a new concept called Future LARP, Future Live Action Role Play. And what we do is that we take a staging, we 5 or 10 years ahead, and then we say we have a place, we are some persons here with different roles, and we have a dilemma or a problem. Place, persons, and problem. And then we add some tech on it. We say, now we have this and this and this. We take some trends that we have today or we see coming, and then we tweak it a little bit so it gets funny. And then we do a role play. So we take different roles. So you could be the assigner, the facilitator, the participant, the holder of the platform or the conference facility, and so on. And then we come into different situations and we discuss the business model, the setting of the facilitation, where people are, and so on. And I have, if I'm the LARP leader, I'm the one that facilitate the role play. I come with different things that make it more interesting, and then people go into situations. And then we have an observer, or we call it a memory catcher, that actually write things down that happens, that says and so people can be in their role. They don't act, actually. They don't dress as we do in fantasy LARP, but they are with hold their mind, because we show different movies from Black Mirror at Netflix and so on. So they are in this feeling, and then we're back to this day, and we say, well, now we have lived in the future when it comes to facilitation, and then the memory catcher mirror some things that help us reflect, and then we put it all together in what kind of preparations do we need to do for this future? What priorities do we need to decide upon, and what kind of behavior is most beneficial for us to be able to use the advantages that are laying ahead when it comes to the future facilitation. And actually, you gave me an idea to do this in a sandbox, or whatever we frame it at Never Done Before community, because I do this future LARPs now in a Swedish context with people and organizations for all different sectors and branches and so on. But this could be the first international LARP we do. And I couldn't think of a better place to do that than Never Done Before, of course.
Absolutely.
The future of facilitation, when we have digital twins everywhere, we have VR glasses. Perhaps we also have haptical interfaces.
And we have an information overload,
yeah,
of everyone. So I think one is, as a facilitator, to take advantage of all these tools and devices, and still being mindful that the individuals that we're hosting, their attention span might even get shorter, or we are competing against many more devices.
Yeah, but it could also be so that we all have personal AIs taking care of how we feel, our emotions, our information handling, and our facilitator AI have to negotiate with all the participants' AI in preparation. I know
That's
it's a
true.
very very fun game to role play being an AI in this future LARP.
And we have a lot of improv theater players in the community.
Yeah,
So
that helps. That helps.
Because also, instead of an AI, we can just have our boxes where we cannot be disturbed for each meeting so that we can monotask.
Exactly.
Maybe this is what helped our species to survive, the monotask boxes.
I think so. And how they look and how the monotask box designer company that was founded 2027, I think, because when we have this LARP, it's 2032 perhaps. It's 2 years after the agenda of the sustainable goal are supposed to be have, but we didn't, I think. So it's very fun to hear this designer describe how she or he designed this monotask box, in what material and so on. So it's so fun to do this future travel, open this tunnel into the future, and actually have both science and where the technology is heading, but also weak signals as we talk about. And one thing I have realized and not used yet with this never done before community is the facilitators are in all different levels in the society, in all different countries, in all different sectors and branches. So if there anywhere you can listen for these weak signals, the new way of organizing companies or authorities and so on, it's through never done before community. So I will actually start much more systematically to look for these weak signals when I interact with other facilitators in the never done before community. I don't think that most people think of that they are a part of the weak signal network, but I think we are. A facilitator is both within a process but can see it from outside. And when we go to 2 different clients, we see the different logics that are inhabited in the organization. Yeah. So I think we have a tool there that many part of the society have a big use of, instead of those trend companies. And we live in these organizations.
Yes. So and bringing the different cultures and parts of the world together, then it can be an amplifier. So it might start as a weak signal, but then it depends who picks that signal up in order to amplify it. Yeah, and then it becomes hybrid instead of phygital, but it could change. Wonderful. Wow. Thomas, after 90 minutes, is there something, surely there are a lot of things, but is there something specifically that you wanted to share that we haven't touched upon yet? No, I have so many. Every word I use is a large concept behind. So of course it's a lot of concepts, but it's all interwoven and interconnected. My message to the listeners is, if you
isn't a part of the never done before community yet, hurry, because we are people from all different parts of the world, different sectors and so on, that working with the most important thing, I think, and that is to help people be their best when they interact. I think we don't have the power yet to solve the Russia-Ukraine conflict and so on, but actually, please join the Never Done Before community, even though you don't call yourself a facilitator yet. I think we will have different branches when it comes to this kind of project leaders that often facilitate, this kind of managers that often facilitate and so on. So, and you, Mariam, are building a very good infrastructure for this, that have the right feeling, this mutual respect, playful, let's test instead of push, take a position and be a brand. So that's what I want to add.
Thank you. Thank you for being the ambassador to Never Done Before, and yeah, the provider of so many ideas. So I'm looking forward to implement one of your recent ideas, the Testival.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. I fell in love with it. So midsummer, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Miriam.
Dum, 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 dum.
And then do you some editing of this, or
yes,
do you? Yeah, thank
yes.
you.
So I do have